Hare Krishna, good morning, good evening. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravaktaranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So let us take the medicine of Srimad Bhagavatam to cure the ignorance that keeps us from distinguishing reality and illusion. We're studying the third canto, and today we start chapter 11. Calculation of time from atom. Vidura inquires further about the nature of time, and Maitreya describes how time is measured in relation to atoms. Maitreya also explains the difference between human years and that of the Pitris, the lesser gods, the Manus and principal gods, and that of Brahma and the inhabitants of the highest planets. In doing so, he explains the duration of the different ages, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yugas. He describes how religious principles deteriorate in each age, and thus the method of self-realization becomes progressively simpler and more potent. Finally, Maitreya explains that although time is immeasurably powerful, it cannot control Krishna and his pure devotees. Okay, let's pause there. Also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, time I am. So Krishna, kalosmi. Krishna's time. Yesterday also I was thinking how time is the way we can actually be forced to see Krishna. Everyone is getting older, everyone is getting tired. Time, so the sunrise and then sunset, and it gets us closer and closer to the fact that we are not in control. Okay. Let's see. And it's very important to see how each of these yugas has its own purpose. Maitreya is explaining the whole perspective of time in relation to Krishna, and that is important for devotees because we know that Krishna is not under the influence of time. Time is not under his control, yet he respects the fact of the demigods, and we've been seeing and studying how he respects the benedictions of other demigods. He respects the time course. He's always, they say God's timing is perfect. We may rush, whereas, Krishna is like working on something greater for us, greater for humanity, and for a higher purpose. Let me see. Okay. Continue this reading. As the two friends were speaking, the sun had risen in a cloudless blue sky. It promised to be a hot day. By virtue of his long yoga practice, Maitreya was undisturbed by extreme weather, but out of consideration for Vidura, he suggested they move to a shaded spot further upriver. The two men walked in silence, Vidura carrying his staff and Maitreya a water pot. After a short while they reached a sparkling rivulet shaded by green foliage, the stream gurgled pleasantly as it flowed down from the hills, collecting in rock pools before falling as small waterfalls and continuing towards the Ganges. Maitreya helped Vidura climb up to one of the larger pools surrounded by an overarching bogs of tree laden with fruits. Pink lilies floated on the crystal clear pond. A multicolored fish darted between them. Green and blue parrots flew squawking in and out of red blossom trees. Water sprayed pleasantly, keeping the area cool. The two men slaked their thirst and then seated themselves comfortably on the soft bluish grass growing near the pond. Let's pause there. Soft bluish grass. That's a beautiful difference between what we see nowadays in the cities. It's even hard to see grass around. So they are in this forest going up towards Ganga and finding all this little puddles of water as well. After admiring their celestial surroundings, Vidura said, "O learned Maitreya, please continue describing the nature of time." Let's pause there. There's Jagannath Dasa's quotation about Kala. Kalantargata Kala Niyamaka Kalatita Trikalagnya Kala Pravartaka Kala Nivartaka Kalotpadaka Kala Murti Tava Dasoham. Krishna is the creator of time, the source of time, the controller of time. Trikalagnya, he is also the knower of the past, present, and future. And then Kala Nivartaka, Kala Pravartaka, he transforms time. So our life situations are not by chance. Krishna has his own plan. You just need to let him do his job and get out of it, get out of the way. All right, let's see here. Okay. Maitreya said, to properly comprehend time, you require a basic understanding of the atoms which comprise the universe, known as Paramanam, indivisible and eternal. They survive even the dissolution of the planets and are the foundation of all material form. I've heard students of Sage Kannada's Vaisheshika school speak about these atoms, replied Vidura. They interpret Kannada's teaching variously. Some say there's only one type of atom. Others say there are four: earth, water, fire, and air atoms. Maitreya smiled and shook his head. People often misunderstand atoms. Actually, they are invisible. He swept his arm around in a large arc to indicate their surroundings. Atoms are the ultimate state of everything. Initially, they constitute the unlimited ones, technically known as the Paramana Mahan. Later, they combine to form countless material varieties. Why is this important to know about atoms in order to describe time? Asked Vidura. Actually, I was thinking the same question as what Vidura is asking here. Why is it important to understand atoms in order to understand and describe time? So here's the answer. Time is the Almighty Vishnu's invisible potency by which he pervades and delimits the cosmos. It is measured in relation to combinations of atoms, from the smallest division to the largest. Vidura appeared confused and Maitreya explained. Time is calculated by the sun. The time expended for the sun to go to the distance of one atom or paramanu is thus called as paramanu of time. and the time expended from one dissolution to the next is called Paramanu Mahan, or supreme time. Do you understand? I think so, replied Vidura. You're saying that time and space are correlative terms. Since time is measured by how long it takes for the sun to pass over a certain space of atoms, the time it takes for the sun to pass over a single atom is the basic unit of atomic time. The greatest span of time is measured in terms of how long it takes for the sun to pass over all the planetary systems from their creation until their annihilation. Yes, you've understood perfectly, Maitreya said, his face lighting up with delight as his student's comprehension was. When the student understands the teacher, there is such a sense of fulfillment. And of course, Vidura is going to have questions, right? And that's what makes a good student when we have questions. I have a question, said Vidura. Since the atom is invisible, how can it be used to measure invisible time? Ah, very good question. You see, atoms unite. When two come together, they become a double atom, technically known as anu. And there are three anus combined. They form a hexatom called a traserenu. Traserenu. They're visible. These are visible. Really? Exclaimed Vidura. It requires the right conditions. For example, in a dark room with the sun shining into it, perhaps through a latticed window, if you carefully observe the sunbeams, you will see tiny particles in the air currents. These are hexatoms. Maitreya peered up the branches over the overhanging trees beyond which the sun shone brightly. Since it's quite shady here, if you look up carefully at the light shining through those branches, you may see them. Vidura screwed his eyes and looked up at the sunshine glaring through the tree canopy. After several moments, he noticed tiny translucent dots floating in the air. And those dots floating in the air. Were they hexatoms or just dust particles? It was hard to say. Because we see those every day, right? When we open our windows and we see through the curtains, there is some kind of particles, right? Little atoms. And those are the hexatoms, according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Vidura. So, this conversation between Vidura and Maitreya is both technical, philosophical, as well as it shows, Prabhupada would say devotees should know everything. Should have knowledge of everything. Vidura listened as Maitreya explained how by combining atoms in increasing numbers, different measurements of time could be calculated. When he reached the unit known as danda, equal to 30 minutes, he described a method by which this can be calculated by placing a pierced pot on water until it overflowed. The sage added, another way of calculating a danda is backwards from prahara. What is a prahara? There are 4 praharas known as the yamas in the day and 4 in the night of human being. Hence, 1 is equal to 3 hours. There are 6 dandas in a prahara. 15 earthly days comprise the moon's waxing phase, known as the Shukla Paksha, and the same again the waning phase, known as the Krishna Paksha. These 2 Pakshas together make a month. 1 human month equates to 1 day and 1 night on Pitri planet, where righteous forefathers reside. 2 human months are a season, and it takes 6 such months for sun to travel from south to the north. 2 such solar moments are, of course, a human year, which is a day and night on the planet of the gods. Humans generally live up to 100 years. Okay, so then how would that be calculated? That would make basically one of God's years equal to our human years, like 360 human years. I was just thinking of like when we look at other animals, like ants or dogs, or their span of life is much less than ours. So it's not very hard to conceive the fact that there are living entities for whom time is it works differently. So time is relative. One day of I mean, 1 year of us is just one day in other higher planets. And 1 month of ours is one day in Pitriloka, like that. So it's not very difficult to conceive this thought. Maitreya nodded. All movement from the orbits of the sun, the other celestial bodies, and even that of an atom takes place under the direction of the Supreme Lord in the form of eternal time. You may have heard of different terms used in astrology, physics, and mathematics, such as Samvatsara, Parivatsara, Anuvatsara, Idavatsara, and Vatsara. These are different types of years measured in terms of length of time of the respective orbits of the sun, moon, stars, and other luminaries through the zodiac. This is specialized knowledge, and unless you're interested in these sciences, it is not important to explain in detail. The key point is to remember, above all branches of knowledge, is the supreme control of the Lord in his powerful form of time. Pause there. I mean, in fact, I studied astrology, and these calculations become very crucial for everything, like setting muhurta for marriage, or setting a muhurta for starting a project, or all these things are interdependent. The macrocosm, which is what we're studying right now in Srimad Bhagavatam, which very clearly unpacks the way, the relation with the time and the atoms and the elements, and then the astronomical calculations, which determines the connection between that macrocosm and the microcosm, which is us, which is our world, which is our lives. We can say also mass karma, like if there's a karma for a country. If you're born in a specific country, there is certain karma. Certain countries experience war and conflicts, and certain countries experience austerities. Certain other countries have earthquakes and natural disasters prone places in the world. And then we have family karma. We all carry certain DNA connected to our ancestors, and we experience certain intellectual or karmic baggage, so to speak. And then, of course, we have our individual time reflected within our own life. There are good times and bad times, as they say. In times where we are experiencing the fruits of the results of past good activities, fruitive activities, then we are experiencing good results. But that is also temporary. And the same thing, when we're struggling, maybe a specific time comes for us to pay back some karmic debts from the past, and then we're experiencing struggle and sacrifice and suffering, which is purifying our existence. Otherwise, what's the difference between animals and human beings? So all these elements of time is meant to help us to go towards Krishna. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, everyone's path is leading us to Krishna. Eventually, whether it's the animal, whether it's the criminals, whether it's the people who are stuck in Mayavada philosophy, whoever they are, Krishna, we are all Krishna's children. And so he has a plan for us, and we're all moving. Time is taking us through transformation. Kalotpadaka Kala Murti. So Krishna is actually, time is also deity. It's Krishna, and time is eternal in that context for Krishna. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, and this point here that Maitreya is making, that this kind of specialized knowledge, it's not for everybody. That's why traditionally Brahmanas would study this, because the connection between the macrocosm and microcosm is not very easy to understand. So Like astrological knowledge is not just meant for predictions, or you will do this, you will become this, you will have this kind of life. It's not only for that. It's the whole, like, Krishna works on us through lifetimes. It's not just one lifetime that we have. It's been, we do not see our past life. We do not know what we were, but there are lessons that are still hanging on our head, so to speak. And we are given time as the determining factor of whether we're going to complicate it more, or we're going to stick to our sense of purpose and figure out what it is that we, what direction, what is our real focus, where are we moving towards. That's the right purpose of time for a devotee, to determine, okay, what am I going to do? Like, when we go on an airplane, you have those, whatever, 5 hours. What are you going to do with that? You can rest and rejuvenate. You can pick a fight with your neighboring passenger. You could pick a fight with the air hostess. You can start complaining about everything in the airline, or you can read a book and become more knowledgeable at the end of the journey, and so on and so forth. Okay, so time is certain things you cannot change. Because of time and karma, you have the parents that you have the kind of body that you have the kind of mind that you have. But then what are you going to do with it? Like, okay, you have the pilot that you have the air hostess that you have the guy or girl sitting next to you in the airplane that you got. But what is in your control is what are you going to do with that time? How are you going to utilize that time? Who are you going to spend with? What are you going to invest your mind into, and so on and so forth. So those priorities are relevant in this context as well. And essentially, these Vedic sciences gives us help in that. Vidura glanced up curiously at the sun through the branches of the trees. Why do we use the sun's orbit to calculate time and not that of moon or other celestial bodies? Ah, the sun enlivens all living beings, including the other planets, with his unlimited heat and light. Without the sun, the planets could not maintain their orbits. Not only that, but the sun diminishes the duration of life of all living beings and thereby curtails their attachment to material enjoyment. The appropriate time for sacrifices to the gods are also calculated according to the sun, whose movements thus open up the path of elevation to the heavenly planets. Therefore, Vidura, we offer special respects to him. Okay, let's pause there. Very, very important. Sun is also known as the Atma Karka. He actually determines like the path of progress towards our life. And this is giving me a whole different level of understanding even about astrology, because sun is a very important planet. When he's afflicted in the chart, then we have insecurities, we have lack of vision in our life, and we lack confidence, and so on and so forth. And so when this understanding, it gives another, see, this is amazing. The sun not only sun diminishes the duration of life, but he also curtails our attachment to material enjoyment. Oh my God, that's amazing. Because in Vedic astrology, we have malefic planets and benefic planets. And like good, like positive, or like benefic planets are Jupiter and Moon and Mercury and Venus. They're always like giving us good things in life, so to speak. And then there are malefic planets such as Saturn and Mars, and they're always kind of like creating trouble for us, right? And sun, by the way, is considered malefic. No matter how good a person's sun is in their astrological chart, he burns. And oh my God, this description is giving me a whole philosophical perspective on it. Why? Because he's diminishing our attachment to the material enjoyment. People with strong sun, they're not sitting in their comfort zone. They're going out there, they're taking risks. And they want to get out of that sense of self, and they want to be of use to others, because sun is giving light to others. He's not just sitting there and thinking about his makeup or something. He's out there, right, burning, and sun burns. So during our sun period, we are challenged, our sense of identity is challenged, and we actually go through like but sometimes we even go through identity crisis, trying to understand depending on our position of that sun, meaning the strength and whatever previous activities we had done in regards to being helpful to others and how selfish we have been and so on and so forth. Okay, I think we will pause here for today. If you have any questions. Otherwise, we can end here. You can study. We will also go back and study the Bhagavatam to see more references. Thank you very much for your attention. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.